Chosen one, you've entered the room without making a sound, and yet the walls tremble. Not because you're loud, but because your stillness exposes everything fake around you. You were never here to argue. You were never here to prove. You were sent to exist, to glow, and let your light whisper what their lies could never scream. Truth, you don't compete. You don't chase attention, and yet you're followed. Not by fans, but by those who are haunted by the reality that you are something they'll never be. Anointed, chosen, protected. Your name lives rent-free in places your feet have never stepped. Conversations are happening about you that you never asked for, because when you shine, those addicted to darkness panic. Let's make it clear, your light is not their problem. It's their exposure. They feel your presence like a burn in the back of their throat. They speak your name like it's a curse, hoping to curse what they couldn't control. But the truth is, they never had a chance. You don't walk with permission. You walk with assignment. You don't have enemies. You have echoes. Understand this, chosen one. The noise isn't about you. It's about what you reflect. Your elevation makes their stagnation obvious. Your silence highlights their chaos. Your progress echoes louder than their protests. You didn't have to fight. You just had to move. And yet they obsess, they slander, they spiral. Because when your name comes up, so does their insecurity. You're not hated because you harmed anyone. You're hated because you outgrew them without announcing it. You're not unstable. You're unshakable. And that threatens anyone who built their confidence on illusion. Let them call you names. Let them shout over your silence. Because you've already become their lesson. They just haven't accepted the homework. You didn't burn the bridge. They set it on fire, then cried for water. They wanted you silent. Now they can't stop speaking your name. They poked the sleeping fire, and now wonder why the smoke is suffocating them. But you never needed revenge. You are the revenge. Every step you take in growth, in peace, in elevation, it's a silent sermon, one that needs no mic, one that delivers judgment. Through joy, clarity through calm, your victory is not loud. It's inevitable. The universe didn't make a mistake when it chose you. Let's settle this. Your glow is not arrogance. It's alignment. You are not rising because of ego. You are rising because of obedience. Because you said yes when it cost you everything. Because you healed instead of hated. Because you stayed silent when lies could have destroyed you but didn't. And now the shift has begun. The rooms you enter feel smaller. The conversations bore you. The distractions bounce off your armor. That's not pride. That's altitude. Eagles don't explain their flight to pigeons. You are high. No longer here to compete. You're here to create. They can mock your past. They can twist your name. But what they can't do is match your frequency, because it wasn't built on trends. It was forged in the fire. You didn't climb a ladder. You clawed through concrete. You didn't inherit your glow. You bled for it. That's why they hate your silence, because your quiet says, I survived what would have killed you. They wanted chaos. You chose peace. And that was the real problem. Your stillness makes their noise unbearable. They post. You progress. They gossip. You grow. They curse. You consecrate. Every move you make reminds them that the light can't be duplicated, that peace is a language they've never learned, and no matter how hard they scream your name, it still doesn't echo with truth, because you're not in the room to be understood. You're in the room to shift it. You are no longer in their orbit, and they're suffocating without your gravity. They once thrived off your presence. Now your absence starves them. You stopped feeding the chaos. You stopped responding to bait, and now their loudest weapon, your attention, is gone. That's why the noise has increased, because silence terrifies the unhealed. And you, chosen one, you've become their mirror. They talk about you more than they talk about themselves, not because you did anything, but because you evolved and left them in place. Let the records show you never needed to shout, you just had to shine, and now the whole world is watching, some to celebrate, some to spectate, some to imitate, some to plot, but none can deny what's happening. You were picked out, not passed over. And when the moment came, you didn't flinch, you didn't fold, you didn't explain, you didn't dim, you rose. And now they burn, not in your fire, but in the flame of their own refusal to grow. Declare this now. I will not apologize for being chosen. I will not shrink to make others comfortable. I am not unstable. I am unshakable. I walk in truth, and the truth walks with me. Drop the number 77 in the comments if you know. This message has confirmed what your spirit already felt. Subscribe to Bible Peak for more fire that calls the chosen out of hiding and into purpose. You don't owe the world your defense. You owe God your obedience. And that's exactly what your life is starting to look like. Keep shining, chosen one. They called you unstable, but the truth is you're ascending. Chosen one, now that the light has made itself known, now that the presence you carry can no longer be ignored, let's tell the truth they've never been ready to hear. Your silence was never weakness, it was restraint. It was obedience. It was spiritual strategy. You weren't mute. You were measured. You weren't passive. You were protected. You weren't afraid. You were focused. In a world addicted to instant reactions, to clapping back, to making noise, you chose stillness. You chose prayer over pettiness, discernment over display. And heaven noticed, because when you could have spoken death, you chose to speak nothing at all. When you could have exposed what was done in the dark, you let God handle it in His light. When your name was twisted, when your silence was called guilt, when your growth was labeled pride, you didn't defend yourself. You let your fruit speak. Well, God was watching how you handled injustice. There were moments when slander came like a flood, when betrayal felt like a knife in the back, when people you loved, people you covered, people you prayed for, chose to speak against you instead of speaking to you. And still, you stayed silent, because the Spirit whispered, "Don't respond, I'm using this." And though you wept, though you wanted to scream, though you crafted 1,000 replies in your mind, you obeyed. You chose peace over proving. And because of that, God has now stepped in to vindicate you. You are no longer waiting for their apology. You've been cleared by heaven. The irony. They think your silence meant you were guilty, but in the court of heaven, you've already been justified. You're not looking for closure anymore. You're not stuck in cycles of what if. You've made peace with what happened, and you've stopped waiting for explanations from people who don't even have integrity. You no longer seek validation from voices that lied about you. You no longer sit at tables where your spirit was never fed. You no longer waste discernment on people who discarded you, because heaven has spoken. And the verdict is clear. You're still chosen. You didn't walk away. You outgrew the noise they say you left. But the truth is, they stayed the same. While they repeated old cycles, you were being upgraded. While they chased clout, you chased character. While they used their mouths, you sharpened your mind. You let the wilderness train you. You let silence shape you. And now, your difference is undeniable. You're not louder. You're deeper. You're not more visible. You're more rooted. You're not more emotional. You're more controlled. They called it coldness, but it was clarity. Your discernment grew quieter, but sharper. You no longer flinch when someone shifts around you. You no longer panic when people fall away. You no longer question every ending, because you've come to understand, not all. Disconnections are demonic. Some were divine. Some were God's mercy. Some were your prayers being answered in disguise. You prayed for growth, so He removed the anchors. You prayed for peace, so He quieted the noise. You prayed for purpose, so He exposed the distractions. Your silence wasn't loss. It was pruning. They mistook your surrender for surrendering. The enemy misread your posture. When you knelt in prayer, he thought you were weak. When you walked away quietly, he thought he'd won. When you stopped defending yourself, he assumed you had nothing to say. But what the enemy didn't know was that your silence wasn't surrendering to him. It was surrendering to God. You were letting the Spirit fight battles your flesh wanted to respond to. And now, the fruit of that obedience is breaking through. They expected you to retaliate. Instead, you resurrected. They expected you to explain. Instead, you evolved. They expected you to quit. Instead, you outlasted everything they threw at you. You've been quiet long enough. Now let the results speak. This new season won't require noise, just movement, just glory, just elevation. You don't need to clap back, you need to build. You don't need to get even, you need to grow. You don't need to defend your name. God already did. And now, the same people who questioned your silence will have no choice but to sit and watch your rising. You didn't fight for a spotlight. You became a beacon. You didn't chase a stage. You became a sanctuary. You didn't compete with their noise. You let your character prophesy, and it did. Let it be known. You could have responded, but you chose to rise. This is your testimony. They slandered you, but you stayed steady. They dismissed you, but you stayed present. They tried to provoke you, but you stayed protected. And now, you are proof that silence in the spirit is louder than any battle fought in the flesh. You are proof that God defends those who trust Him enough to be still. You are not passive. You are powerful. And the ones who called you weak, they're now watching. Your strength takes shape. In silence, in stillness, in power. You are the storm they never saw coming. Chosen one, there comes a moment when the quiet one, yes, the one they overlooked, underestimated, mocked, stops being still, not because they've lost control, but because heaven said, move. This is that moment, the storm you've been praying for, waiting for, hoping someone else would bring. It's not coming from outside of you. It's coming through you. You are not just stepping into power, you're becoming the interruption, the divine disturbance, the holy recalibration in rooms that have bowed too long to dysfunction. Let's be clear, this is not rebellion, this is righteous authority. This is what happens when someone who survived the fire comes back carrying lightning. They wanted the silent you because the silent you was contained. Your stillness was never for their safety. It was for your alignment. You weren't being polite, you were being prepared. You weren't hiding, you were honoring timing. But now that the seal is broken, now that the fire is burning without apology, you're becoming something they didn't anticipate. The storm that rebuilds and reorders everything it touches. You don't need thunder. You don't need flashing lights. You just walk in and suddenly everything that's out of order starts trembling. That's not ego, that's evidence. That's not rage, that's reformation. You are not shaking the earth out of emotion. You're doing it out of assignment. You don't destroy, you disrupt. Let's be honest, they're calling it chaos because they've grown comfortable in confusion. They're calling you difficult because you don. To obey their dysfunction. They're calling you rebellious because your discernment won't be manipulated. But what they fail to realize is, this is not destruction. It's divine disruption. You don't tear down what's holy. You tear down what's fake. You don't silence voices. You silence lies. You don't create division. You reveal who was never united in the first place. You're not starting a fight. You're announcing the end of counterfeit peace. And now, everything they built on shallow ground? It's shaking, because your presence is the test. Your life is the line in the sand. Your discernment is the sword. This is what happens when oil meets order. The reason your influence hits differently is because it didn't come through networking, it came through kneeling. Your anointing isn't trendy, it's ancient. It doesn't seek the crowd, it carries the cloud. It doesn't ask for applause, it demands alignment. And when oil meets order, when glory meets government, when fire meets focus, systems collapse and God's presence returns. That's why people either follow you or flee you. You don't carry lukewarm. You carry judgment wrapped in mercy. You carry truth that doesn't care about who gets uncomfortable. You carry grace that heals and confronts all at once. You are the storm that corrects and comforts. You are the rain that nourishes and floods. And when people encounter you, they don't just meet a person, they meet an atmosphere. You've become the standard, and that's why you're hated. They won't admit it. They'll try to call you too much. They'll label you dramatic. They'll say you're always intense. But here's the truth. You became the evidence of everything they could have been if they had surrendered. You're not being punished. You're being used. You're not being attacked because you're wrong. You're being attacked because you're right and effective. You don't just enter places. You expose what's been hiding there. You don't just join teams. You shift the culture. You don't just speak, you reveal. And for some people, that's terrifying, because your very existence rebukes their apathy. Your clarity makes their confusion obvious. Your peace makes their performance irrelevant. Your power makes their position look powerless. They're not hating you. They're haunted by your holiness. You are not loud. You're legendary, you're not viral, you're vital, you're not famous, you're foundational, you're not seen by many, but you are known by heaven. You are the fulfillment of silent prayers prayed by your ancestors. You are the answered fast of your great-grandmother. You are the culmination of seeds sown in secret by people who were never named. You don't speak to impress, you speak to break yokes. You don't gather for attention, you gather for deliverance. You don't move to be noticed, you move to set captives free. This is what storm bearers do. You were not sent to fit, you were sent to flip tables. Let's make it plain. You are the one who walks in and flips tables that others pretended not to see. You are the one who stops the program and reintroduces presence. You are the one who ruins comfort zones and reintroduces consecration. And yes, it's costly. You've lost friends, you've been disinvited, you've been called too much, but still you move because your call is not to be liked, it's to be light. And the deeper the darkness, the more disruptive your light becomes. Heaven doesn't need another celebrity. It needs carriers. You're not here for platforms, you're here for altars. You're not here for validation, you're here for visitation. And the weight you now carry cannot be packaged, marketed, or sold. It must be released in your city, in your family, in every region where religion replaced relationship. Because this is not just your assignment, it's your mantle. You are not just a storm, you are the shift. Let this settle in your spirit. I am not unstable, I am the storm. I am not loud, I am a trumpet. I am not angry, I am awakened. And I will not apologize for the sound I was born to release. This isn't attitude, it's alignment. This isn't revenge, it's righteousness. This isn't chaos, it's calling. You were born for this, formed for this, refined for this. And now, you've become the evidence that God still sends storms to silence every lying system. They called you unstable. But the truth is, you're the stability they prayed for, but weren't ready to receive. Chosen one, the final part of your process is not survival. It is not just rising from the ashes or being noticed after years of obscurity. This final part is not about being seen, it's about taking dominion. This is not the bounce back. This is not the glow up. This is the establishment of who God always said you were. This is the moment when the heavens stop whispering and start announcing, "This one is mine." This is your era. You're not rising to be impressive. You're rising to take territory. You're not just a testimony. You are a template for what obedience looks like in this generation. You're not just anointed. You are now activated. Everything they tried to bury you under has become your platform. Every lie they told about you became a stage for truth. Every door they shut was rerouted by God to a gate no man can close. You're not in the same realm anymore. You're not where you used to be. You don't move like you used to move. The old insecurities, gone. The old patterns, burned off. The old limitations, obliterated. This is the realm of the unshakable Psalm. 125:1 declares, "Those who trust in the Lord are like Mount Zion, which cannot be shaken but endures forever." That's you now. You are immovable. Not because of arrogance, but because of anchor. You are anchored in identity, anchored in intimacy, anchored in unrelenting truth. They can no longer provoke you. They can no longer pull you back. You've crossed the threshold. The line has been drawn, and now you move with a different kind of weight. You are becoming a territory holder. This is not about titles. This is about territory. You don't just walk into rooms, you claim them. You don't just join conversations, you shift them. You don't just build platforms, you establish strongholds for heaven. Everywhere your feet tread is now under assignment. Every relationship, every opportunity, every creative project, it's all part of the expansion. You're not just called to stand in spiritual places, you're called to govern them, to manage what others mishandled, to bring order where others brought chaos, to rule with mercy, truth, and relentless authority. The era of pretenders has ended. The era of the proven has begun. We are no longer in the age of the popular. We are in the age of the proven. People don't want personalities, they want presence. They don't want filters, they want fire. They don't want hype, they want holy weight. And that's what you carry now. You're not for the crowd, you're for the remnant, you're not for the masses, you're for the movement. God didn't anoint you to be trendy. He anointed you to be timeless. Your oil will outlast opinions. Your legacy will outlive your name. Because what you're building now is not for the now, it's for what's next. You are not here to impress, you are here to inherit. The mantle on your life has never been about elevation alone. It has always been about inheritance. God is not just giving you moments. He's giving you land, spiritual territory, kingdom assignments, generational legacy. You are walking into fulfilled promises, reclaimed purpose, generational recompense. Everything you lost is being returned with interest. Everything you cried over is being resurrected in glory. Everything that once mocked you is now bowing before your consistency. This is not just favor, this is restitution. You're not just called to finish, you're called to multiply. You've carried the fire long enough. Now it's time to spread it. This era will not be about you going alone, it will be about you raising up others. You're not just a warrior now, you're a general. You're not just a builder, you're a blueprint. You're not just a voice, you're a voice activator. The people assigned to you are about to rise. The ones who've been watching in silence will now step into their own. The legacy you carry will now begin to flow through the lives you lead, the spaces you touch, the movements you birth. Because God didn't just anoint you to be great. He anointed you to make others great. Let this be your mantle cry. I have been forged by fire. I have been proven in silence. I walk in divine weight. I take territory for heaven. I multiply what God has entrusted to me. This is not just my season. This is my era. This is the era of the unshakable, the era of the risen remnant, the era of kingdom carriers, the era of weight, not popularity, the era of answers, not entertainers. And you, chosen one, you're not just part of it. You are it. Now go, take dominion, walk in legacy, lead without fear. The world will remember that when everything else was shaking, you stood.